So there's a podcast out there that I listen to from time to time called Keeping It 100, and it's hosted by Konnan, the wrestler, not the barbarian. Konnan and Glenn Gilberti, who used to be called the Disco Inferno in WCW. Um, and it's produced by this guy named Joe. Where they found this guy, I don't know. But anyway, and I listen to this podcast from time to time. And it's a good show. I will say 90% of the time it's a good show. Um, One constant thing throughout the show is Disco Inferno and even Konnan sometimes their questioning of Dave Meltzer and their questioning of Tony Khan and AEW's booking. Kind of the same way I do on this channel, where we all realize that, well, not all of us, but those of you who agree with me realize this man is a money mark who is a Meltzer worshiper, values everything that Meltzer says about everything, all these matches, and that Meltzer is constantly praising Tony Khan. And while he does say very rarely this was bad, almost to the point where every time he does it, 50 videos come up on YouTube. Dave Meltzer finally criticizes AEW. Yeah, he does, but he doesn't say how to fix the problem. He doesn't say what the cause of the problem is. Tony Khan. He doesn't say, again, how to fix the problem. Get rid of Tony Khan. Tony Khan needs to get rid of the book. He won't come out and say that. Word verbatim. And if Dave is listening to this, and if it gets back to Dave Meltzer, hi, Dave. I challenge your old ass to come and debate me about this live on a podcast. But guess what? Dave won't do it. Dave does not want to be confronted by other members of the media. Not that I'm media, I'm just a lowly YouTuber. But people more credible than me. Dave Meltzer will not come on a podcast with anybody unless they have the same opinions as him. Case in point, Dave Meltzer was recently a guest on the Keeping 100 podcast. And rumor is that he refused to go on that show if Disco Inferno was going to be on with him. This is a man who's done Phil Donahue and has sat next to Vince McMahon and questioned Vince McMahon's motives on national television. He's appeared on CNN. Look how many times he's appeared on News Nation over this Janelle Grant thing. But he will not come on your show unless he knows that his opinion is going to be law. He will not come on your show and debate you at all. He'll talk to you privately about it, as was learned in this clip here. But he was a guest on the Keeping It 100 podcast. He would not do the show if Disco was going to be on there because he knew that Disco Inferno, Glenn Gilberti, rightfully so, would call him out in a respectful way on his bullshit, on his crap, would call him out on the fact that, hey, why won't you come out and say that Tony Khan is the problem? You'll blame all the podcasters who have that opinion, but you yourself won't come out and say it, even though you know deep down that's what the truth is. So he goes on the Keeping 100 podcast with the producer Joe and Konnan. And I guess Glenn Gilberti, Disco, had sent some questions on to Konnan and goes, hey, slip these in on the sly as Patreon questions, because if he knows it comes from me, he'll shrug it off and won't answer. So Konnan tries to do that, as we'll see in this clip. You know what? Let me roll the clip and you'll see what happened. We'll talk about it afterwards. This is a clip from the K100 show, Keeping 100, with Konnan and producer Joe interviewing Dave Meltzer.
This is one of the questions. Okay, if AW is losing 20 to 34 million dollars, and I don't know if that's correct, in 2023 and 2024, according to your reporting, why are podcasters and people critical of the product considered
That's
frauds?
actually that's actually disco, Konnan.
Is that disco? Okay, yeah.
Okay. So first of all, anyone can be critical of the product all they want.
Right.
I'm critical of the product, like literally every single week. I
Right.
have criticism of every.
But
Saturday
everybody
show.
paints you out to be an AW shill, where many times I've heard you say this was not good.
No,
a lot.
Look, there is not a TV show that they do where I don't say something is really good and I don't say something is really bad, because that's the case on every show. So, I mean, as far as like being critical of aspects of the product, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
Right.
But in saying that like it's a poorly run business, I mean, I know from the start what the business goal was and the reason the business got started. And the reason the business got started was in 2018. Tony Khan was at a party with Kevin Riley, who was the head of Turner, all the Turner stations. Basically, he was the man that was running everything. And Kevin Riley was telling him about how much WWE was getting for their television rights, and just going through the whole thing. And he was just like, he basically said, we'd like to get, we'd like to get Raw, you know what I mean? But, these numbers are so high, and then he kind of was like, well, wrestling used to work here or whatever. But they had a discussion of how much money you could get by producing television for wrestling in the United States. And Tony Khan came out of it and just goes, I just saw how much interest, there was in the Kenny Omega Chris Jericho match from the Tokyo Dome a couple months earlier. And he knew that they were both free agents, and he knew that these guys in ROH were going to be free agents at the end of the year. He knew about CM Punk, of course, and things like that. And it was just like, I could put together a roster, and the whole goal was television revenue. That's what he was building for. And the first, but basically he was put on the air. He was put on the air for with one deal, and then the second deal came, which actually, I think the second deal, I think he projected to be profitable, but it didn't quite add up because of just a number of things. I think that a lot of costs ended up escalating over the next couple of years, and plus you're fighting WWE, which you don't, sometimes when you start, you don't really account for how much that's going to drain you. But all along, after deal number 2, because of the basic success of the television product, and we all knew that the next deal, again, I didn't know what the final number was, but it was always headed to profitability, and it is going to be profitable. It's going to be extremely profitable next year. And so I mean, as a business, it's a huge success. I mean, as far as different aspects of this being good and this not being good, I mean, you're never going to satisfy everyone. And and there's some things that haven't been good. There's some things that have been really good. He has good matches. He doesn't always build them up well. I mean, my God, he had this week he had Bryan Danielson and Okada in a match with I think they announced it on Twitter, the day before or something like that, but it was at the last minute. I'm going like, but that's,
what's mind-boggling to me about that, Dave, is that with all the resources and all the money he has, he should be doing a better job of promoting. Like, for example, they go, well, sometimes you don't promote stuff well. I go, yeah, dude, we don't have no resources. We don't have no TV rights. Like, if he's getting 40 million, we might be getting 100,000. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just like opening up your refrigerator, and he's got bacon and eggs and pancakes, and I just got bread and a bologna sandwich, and you just, well, I guess that's what you do the best you can with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But he brings in all these Japanese people that, you know who they are, and he knows who they are, and the sickos know who they are. But there are people that I'm like, who is this?
So as you see there, producer Joe royally screws up. Konnan tries to ask the question. as if it were coming from a Patreon subscriber. And this guy comes in, no, that's Disco's question. And the look on Meltzer's face, as soon as he finds out that it's a question that Disco Inferno has asked, tells the tale. He immediately throws his head back and rolls his eyes like, oh my God, I can't believe they're asking me about this. Oh my God, how dare they? And then he proceeds to do anything but answer the question. He again refuses to think or refuses to acknowledge that Tony Khan is the problem. So that episode wraps up, and then they go to record the next episode with Disco. And Disco gets a question from one of the Patreon people going, hey, why wouldn't he let Disco be on? I'm sure Disco would be respectful. And the following happens. Now, it's a pretty long clip again, but there's a lot to unpack with it. So I'm going to go ahead and play the entire clip from their YouTube channel, and we'll come back and discuss.
First one in the Patreon mailbag this week is, hey, Joe, you gotta be queued up for this and ready for this. Hey, K100 crew, Tad from H-Town. Subject is Meltzer. Thanks for a great show every week. My question is about Dave Meltzer. I listened to the entire interview. Not a fan of Dave's opinions, but it's great to just hear someone who knows so much about the business and the history. Overall, after hearing the interview, I want to know, why do all of you truly think he wouldn't come on with Disco being there? Disco would have been just as respectful. All right, I heard the interview, Conan, and it was the parts I heard were kind of a love fest between you and Dave. And I also I want to talk about that we should have. Yeah, that's the song we should play for the human house. So when it came time to ask my question,
let me cut you off right here.
Hold on, I got to talk about my question.
Let me cut you off. Fuck all that. No, fuck all that.
Okay.
I'm going to say this. I've said it a million times, and I know you're saying it to rile me up because you know he's my boy. So what did you want me to do? To bring him on here and insult him and offend him so he never fucking comes on again? Is that what you fucking wanted? I think I asked him a couple tough questions. I asked the two questions you wanted.
No,
all right?
No, you did not. You did not answer.
I wouldn't have called it a love fest, though.
Ask my question.
I don't need you to be on my
side.
Well,
of course you're on his side, because this was a concerted effort to minimize my question. I thought it was actually a premeditated. Absolutely. I asked the question.
Oh my God! What a fucking.
Let me finish. Can I talk here? I asked a question.
Really? Is that what you're telling me now? Let me finish. Can I talk now? When you always fucking interrupt me, and now you get mad. You got a lot of balls, Disco. But go ahead.
Okay. You asked my question. Okay. Joe, immediately when the question, at the very last syllable with you said the question, Joe goes, that's Disco's question. Konnan obviously knew it was my question. He wanted to ask it, not to say it was Disco's question. Joe, you interrupted him. Dave didn't even answer the question.
Yeah.
And then you guys just went along. Okay, that's just want to get that on the record.
I was mistaken. I was not aware that Konnan intentionally was hiding that it was your question, and I fucked up. Yes, that is correct. If that was a fuck up, yeah.
You guys fumbled. Okay, so let's agree that you guys fumbled my question.
I didn't fumble shit.
No, Joe fumbled the question, but Dave didn't even answer it. Was the thing.
Right, that's not my fault. So why are you going off on me?
Like, you didn't answer. Why would you say that wasn't the question?
That was a question, wasn't it? The one that
anybody that hears it will hear it. So whatever. But I don't care.
Yeah, a listener pointed that out to me. They're like, you stepped on Konnan there. I don't think Konnan wanted him to know that it was Disco's question. And
correct.
No, that's not true.
Oh, so
I'm just.
It doesn't matter. A lot of people were very critical of the interview between you and Dave. So
good, bro. I don't fucking care. I asked him questions. I asked him the two questions you wanted, and what was the other one that I asked him? Oh, I asked him about the thigh slapping.
No, you didn't. No, I said but I think it was a concerted, premeditated effort to make sure my question didn't get asked properly. So, and that's my story.
Why would I do that? Okay, well, let me ask you a question. What would be
because that's my story, and I'm sticking. Because that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Right. Bro, there's as much trouble as I've been in, as many times as I've been fired, as many times as I've been suspended, as many fights as I've had on this fucking show. For you to try to paint me as some soy boy that's afraid of anybody is fucking ridiculous.
No, but like honestly,
my whole life has just been one rebellious episode after another, whether it's been in the military, in wrestling, in school. I'm just that type of guy that goes against the grain. You know, I mean,
you heard.
did you want me to just?
No, no,
Do
no,
you
no.
want me to just bring him in? Yeah.
No. However, okay, on this show we have discussed.
Right.
You asked Dave why he wouldn't have me on the why he wouldn't be on when I was, and you heard his answer.
He answered it. Yeah.
Correct. My thing is like, Dave,
Right.
why didn't you say because you've said to me, oh come on, I mean that you really think that's a legitimate reason to like
Bro,
not want to do?
How did I preface it? Wait, how did I preface it? It's very weird to me, Dave, that you're on Twitter all the day fighting with these other fucking guys, answering them. Right? You've been on the show. You've never been hijacked. You've never been ambushed. You've never been disrespected. What more do I need to fucking say to have you happy?
Not the point. When he answered
that was
the
his
question,
fucking lame answer that he gave.
When he gave the lame answer, you should said, oh, come on. Like, you wouldn't want to come on and just debate that with him respectfully? Like, you didn't follow up with anything.
Say?
You just asked a question. That was it. He answers like, okay, let's move on. That's it.
Because, bro, you already know that no matter what. But let me tell you why. I think the reason is because much like anybody whether it's, and I'm not even going to say names because later on they think they'll take it personally. But when somebody thinks they're right no matter what, there's no talking any sense into them. How long have I been trying to get him? Bro, I've talked to him privately and said, what the fuck, dude? Really, dude? Really? You know? And that's his stance. And I feel that this is what I think, because the guy goes, why do you think Dave, what was the question? Why do you think Dave really doesn't want to go on the show?
Overall, after hearing the interview, I want to know, why do all of you truly think he wouldn't come on with Disco being there? Disco would have been just as respectful. Why do you truly think he would? Like, you heard his answer. Why do you truly?
Right.
But honestly,
this is what I think.
Let's say that answer is disingenuous. What do you think the reason? Go ahead.
Right. This is what I think. Supposition. Nobody knows what the motherfucker's thinking. I almost feel that there's like a in between that world in him and who else would be in his like orbit that doesn't want to like
Sean Ross
have anything to do with like
Tony Khan,
like those type of
Tony
guys.
Khan, Kenny Omega. You said like even said Kenny Omega didn't want to come.
Those type of guys. They decided, let's none of us give any oxygen to Disco, Russo, Bischoff. I don't know how I'm not in that group, but you know somehow I got like except with Tony.
You got a pass, yeah.
But
I guess.
Right, I got a pass, but you guys, and I also think that you've actually come out and buried him. So has fucking
when he's but when he's actually marginalized me,
right?
Like when he actually tries to minimize my input.
Right.
He doesn't listen to me. Okay, he doesn't have any respect for anything I say, which is ridiculous. And the thing is that in what do you want to call it? The bubble of professional wrestling right now, okay, of everything that's going on. There's two very clear things going on, okay? WWE is doing great business. AEW is not, all right?
Right.
And when we review the shows, we watch these shows, we usually give glowing reviews to the WWE mostly. There's still stuff we bury on the show, but we get hate from the AEW people because we kind of bury their show. But you know, it's kind of obvious one show's doing very well and the other show's not doing well. So the criticism would be applied to the show. Obviously, it's not doing well, and the praise given to the show that's doing well. Their fan base, okay, looks at that as we are hating on one show and just like kissing the ass of the other, which is stupid. But Dave and these guys kind of feed into those fans' responses. Okay, like they, you know, and the thing is like when Dave, who has a lot of influence and people read his sheet, and his readers, that you know, when his awards come out at the end of the year, they think that the AEW show is better than the WWE show. Okay, so he has a lot of influence. So a lot of ideas that he's presenting to this large market audience of fans, okay, should obviously be up for debate. It's like, why would you not want to defend your ideas and stuff? Like, you know, I'm willing to say, like you think this is good. It's like, okay, let me tell you why we don't think it is. Like, you think this is good stuff. We don't think it is. Let's talk about why we don't think it is, and then the problems that you know, like the mistakes that they're making. But he doesn't really seem very willing to do that with other people that disagree with him. The only reason he did it with you is because you're a friend of his. He won't do any type of like what do you want to call it? I don't want to call it enemy media, but like, why would you not want to defend your ideas against other people with influence that disagree with you? And it's just that all those guys don't want to seem to do that. Go ahead.
Yeah, as we've discussed on the show before, not everybody thinks like we do, and that's okay. You can't. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll give you a good example, a real good example in wrestling, bro. In Mexico, a lot of times when I'm trying to recruit top talent from other promotions, a lot of times they're like, well, you sure that, I'll get over? Are you sure that? I'm not sure of shit, dude. Just, I'm giving you an opportunity. But and some guys would say, oh, no, I'd rather stay here in the mid card. And I'm thinking to myself, bro, anytime I left a company, in my mind, whether I was full of shit or not, I always thought I'm going to make it. I never ever doubted myself like, oh, I wonder if I'll make it. I never had that, but that's the way I think. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Some people either aren't as confident or aren't as sure. And like, he's not the type of person that's going to be confrontational, because that's not his, even though he claps back. But bro, everybody's a tough guy on Twitter.
Right.
Everybody has a big set of balls on Twitter. Right? Mm-hmm. But it's a whole different thing when you're video to video or face to face. It's a whole different vibe.
Right.
So a lot to unpack here. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of another example of what happened with this interview. There was way back when, a couple years ago, when the Snyder cut of Justice League was going to be released on HBO Max, Zack Snyder went around and did a press tour. And one of the things that was arranged was for him to do an interview with Geeks and Gamers, the Geeks and Gamers YouTube channel, and a former NFL football player called, his name, oh man, I'm going to butcher this. My white ass apologizes for this one. Uche Nawarni. May he rest in peace. He's since passed away. He passed away in 2022, December 30th, 2022, of a heart attack. This guy played for the Jacksonville Jaguars from 2007 to 2013 and was a member of the off-season and or practice squad for the Dallas Cowboys in 2014. He started 92 games, played 104 games total. But after his football career ended, he decided he was going to be a YouTuber. And he decided to jump on the Fandom Menace bandwagon and link up with Geeks and Gamers and link up with Midnight's Edge and all those guys. Well, when they got this Zack Snyder interview, apparently word got back to Zack Snyder that, hey, this guy's with Geeks and Gamers. He set this up. Well, Zack Snyder immediately put out on Twitter, hours before the interview was to take place, I am not affiliated with Geeks and Gamers, and neither is this interview. So the guy Jeremy, the guy who heads up Geeks and Gamers, stepped away and said, okay, we'll bow out of it. I will not be on the interview. Uche, you and a couple other people can do this. So here are people, along with this Uche guy, I think Drunk 3PO might have been on there. I can't remember. There was a lot of guys on there from the same group, this Fandom Menace group, who have criticized Zack Snyder's work in the past, who criticized Star Wars and everything like that. I know this has nothing to do with wrestling, but I'm giving you guys an example here of what happened with Konnan and Meltzer. When they get Zack Snyder on, everybody who's in the YouTube chat room are going, okay, they're going to let this guy have it. They're going to let this guy have it. They're going to call him out on everything they've been talking about. And it ended up being a fluff piece. They didn't ask one controversial question. They didn't do this. They didn't ask anything that they were going to ask. And their rumor and their response to that when they got called out on it was, well, what do you guys want us to do? Get him on and hammer him? And the answer to that from all the people were, yes. You guys complain all the time about Access Media and their fluff piece and their fluff pieces that they do. But when it comes time for you to have a real interview with somebody, you ask fluff piece questions. And that's what happened. And Geeks and Gamers lost a lot of viewers. This guy, Uche, lost a lot of subscribers on YouTube because of that Zack Snyder interview. And the same thing now has happened with the K100 podcast. You criticize Meltzer's ways. You criticize his views on the business. You criticize the fact that he won't make Tony Khan accountable for anything. And then when he agrees to come on your show, you kowtow to his demands. You step and fetch for him. You say, okay, one of my the co-host of the show won't be on. And when you do have an opportunity to ask him a question that the co-host would have asked, you screw it up by saying, yes, it's his question. So when you can't even sneak shit in right, dude. And I blame that on Joe, this producer guy. He should have kept his damn mouth shut and just let Konnan ask the question. The question is, why is it that this company is losing millions upon millions of dollars a year, but yet the podcasters are the ones you bash? The podcasters who call them out, like me, are the ones that you criticize. And at the end of that clip I just played, Konnan goes, well, it's different when you're face to face. I'll ask him about this in private, and he says, oh, that's my stance on it. You're not going to sway my opinion. But in public, when it comes time to call him out on his shit, Konnan, you let him dodge the question. You completely let him go off on a wild, like Meltzer does, a wild tangent on how the company was formed, why the company was formed, how it's not losing money. And you didn't rope him around. Disco Inferno here is 100% right. You should have roped him around and held his ass over the fire. What am I supposed to do? Come on here and disrespect him to where he'll never come on again? Yes! It's called being a damn non-biased journalist. Yes! If he chooses not to come on again, that's on him, that he can't take criticism. He should want to come back on again. Case in point, Vince McMahon, the Bob Costas interview in 2002. Got into a heated argument with Bob Costas when Bob Costas was pressing on him about the XFL closing and the ratings. Go look at the McMahon documentary that just got dropped on Netflix. What happened? A year later or a year or two later, McMahon came back on the show. So if Meltzer wants to sit there and cry about the questions he's being asked, he should have never agreed to the interview to begin with. He should have let Disco be on the show. Let me interview him. Meltzer, I challenge you to come on my podcast. And I will furiously debate you. I will furiously debate you. And ask you the tough questions and dare you to dodge them. Because I'll pull you back in. And rope you back in and make you answer the shit. It's bullcrap that this guy only wants to take fluff piece interviews. That he doesn't want to be asked a hard question because he knows deep down in his heart that Tony Khan is the issue. He knows that he will never, ever come out and publicly say Tony Khan should not be booking the show. His booking is ruining the product. He knows that if he does come out and say this, word for word, verbatim, Tony Khan is the problem. Tony Khan should give up the book. He knows if he comes out and says this, that he will lose his access. And he will be no different than any other random bullshit podcaster that he slams on a weekly basis. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Was Konnan right to kowtow to these conditions? Was Konnan right to let him dodge questions? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. We'll see you down the road.